And what is going on, man? Our nation, it's your boy Brandon Combs coming to you live on a Sunday morning here in the beautiful city of Chicago. That's right, baseball is back. I'm all dressed up in my Cubs gear. I'm geeking out on baseball. I watched all 3 hours of that preseason game yesterday. So I'm sure once John Fitzgibbons hops in the chat, he will be talking all sorts of stuff about my gear. But while we wait for that to happen, we'll bring on the better looking brother, the better personality brother, the better all around brother. He is Ryan Fitzgibbons. What's going on, Ryan?
You're goddamn right. I am. It looks like a Smurf puked up on you, but
hey,
you look
know,
good. You look happy. Baseball
world champion
is back.
patch.
Oh God, that patch is wearing out a little bit over there.
I mean, I know the White Sox. Did you guys ever even win one? I can't remember if you ever won one.
According to ESPN, no.
Okay. Right.
No.
According to half of Chicago, it's probably no too.
Oh, come on. There's a million people at that parade. A million people.
That's about 2.5 million less than the Cubs parade.
Unbelievable.
Oh. So, man, look, baseball was back yesterday.
It is.
I know I was geeking out. I posted a picture of the Cubs defensive lineup off of my TV because I was just sitting there. I'm like, you know what? I got to post this. How excited were you that baseball was back?
It's like I was at a family party on my wife's side yesterday, and I'm like watching the game off my phone. That's how dumb I am. Like, I'm not even soaking in that my son's having a good time with other kids. He's an only child. Like, I'm not even soaking that in. I'm watching baseball. It's the only thing that makes me a kid. Yeah. Like, it's the only real obsession other than maybe, well, whatever, that I have really in sports. Like, it's insane. Like, I can have an hour-long talk about baseball in middle of December. So, yes, yesterday was exciting to see baseball back. It's starting March 30th, which is good. Remember when they used to start like April 7th or 8th? It was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
They should start baseball indoors January 2nd.
I'm with you. And they kind of do because
the holidays are over. I'm like, but when is baseball starting?
Because I watched the Caribbean World Series, so I do start watching baseball in January. I do. That's what it's just. Look, I can't get enough of it. You got spring training baseball now. You got baseball March 30th. I love the fact that they start March 30th now because it's the day after my birthday. So I don't even take my birthday off of work. I take the day after my birthday off of work, so I can sit at home in my underwear eating nachos and hot dogs watching baseball from noon to midnight. Like, that's all I want to do. And I absolutely loved watching the Cubs. I watched a little bit of the Sox games yesterday, and I started thinking, man, there are two vastly different play-by-play and color announce guys, two different broadcast teams in this city. And I mean, they are vastly different.
Sure are.
You've listened to both of them, right?
Yeah, there's a sarcasm to the White Sox where there's like two broadcasts going on at the same time where the Cubs are more on the surface. You know,
who do you think's better?
Like, well, I might be biased, but I've always loved Steve Stone. Like, there's any broadcast booth he's in, I'm a fan of. Even when I was a kid and hated the Cubs. I would listen to broadcasts just to hear him talk, just to have him teach me baseball. And yes, I hated the Cubs.
How could you hate the Cubs? All we did was lose when you were a kid.
I know.
That we never won. How could you hate a team that never won?
Well into adulthood, they lost. They went right past 100 years and just kept going. They were the best losing team in the history of sports.
Yeah, lovable losers as they call them. But no, look, I'm with you. I
Yeah.
actually think the White Sox have the better announced team. I love listening to Steve Stone. I've always loved it. He's just a smart baseball person, and he doesn't care who he offends, which is what cost him his job with the Cubs because he doesn't care. He will talk if you're making a bad call. He talks about you making a bad call. If you're a bad team, he is honest with you, and he talks about you being a bad team. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Boog Sciambi. I think Boog Sciambi is one of the best play-by-play guys in the game right now. JD to me is a little like I would really love to see the Cubs get a new color guy. Like for me, JD is just blah. He tries to be funny and he's not. Len Casper carried him for a long time when it was Len and JD. He carried him. Casper is. He did play. He's smart when it comes to baseball, but he's just so dry and it comes across bad. I don't like listening as much as I'd rather listen to the Cubs radio broadcast. I really would. I'll watch the game on TV and turn down the volume. Coomer and Pat Hughes. He's a Hall of Famer. Yep. And so to me, I think on TV, I'm more. I enjoy listening more when I'm watching a White Sox game than I do a Cubs game.
Yeah, it's all in the details. People who don't like baseball, who say it's boring, you're not watching close enough. And it's hard to explain to somebody who's just dismisses baseball as boring what's going on. They won in 89. My brother John says I'm going to the Red Sox first Devil Rays game in Florida today.
I brought this up because this is a good segue. Did you see how that Red Sox game ended yesterday?
Yes, I did. And I texted you, by the way.
You did?
I'm Nostradamus. No.
You did?
I wish we had a background. I've sold my soul to the devil to predict baseball games. And I said a game is going to be won or lost, either way, whatever side you're on, because of these new rules. It is.
So these new rules are driving me.
I just talked
insane.
About details.
I was okay with the pitch clock.
Details.
Yeah, I was okay with the pitch clock up until then. I almost think they have to revamp the pitch clock to one of two things. A, they need to stop it after the 7th inning. And after the 7th inning and on, you don't worry about a pitch clock.
It's just weird too.
Or you absolutely positively cannot have a pitch clock in the playoffs. There's no way. Could you imagine? I know, and look, I know this is trying to predict something in the future, and this is maybe jumping off the deep end off of one spring training game, the first spring training game of the season. But could you imagine if that was Game 7 of the World Series?
Yeah.
Just imagine Game 7 of the World Series ending because a batter is not looking at a pitcher with 8 seconds to go on a clock.
And a walk is a triple now, if you didn't know it. I could get a triple on a walk now.
Smart base runners are going to have a field day. Because look, for those of you that don't know all the new retirement, he might as well. He'll have 900 stolen bases this year on these rules, dude. For those of you that don't know, let's put it out there. For those of people that don't know or just haven't seen them yet,
I do have them written down, but you could start.
You've got the pitch clock, which is 15 seconds with nobody on base, 20 seconds with a runner on base. A pitcher can step off twice in an at-bat, and he can only throw over or attempt a pickoff twice in an at-bat.
There you go.
A batter only has one timeout per at-bat. Okay?
I actually agree with that. Batters are freaking...
I'm fine with the batter thing doesn't bother me. But when you handcuff a pitcher, when you've got... I don't care who you've got over there. Let's say it's Ricky Henderson on first base, and you're trying to keep him close in the 7th inning of a 1-run game, or 8th or 9th, and you throw over to first twice, now Ricky Henderson knows you cannot throw over a third time. Now, wait, look, there's a caveat to that. I'm sorry. You can throw over a third time, but that third time the runner has to be out or it's a balk. So if he's safe, he gets the base anyway. So Ricky Henderson knows that you can't throw over there unless you're positively going to get him out. Imagine the jump he's going to get. Not only can you not throw over there, but there is a clock counting down to when the pitch is going to be thrown. And if you allow that pitch clock to go under 7 seconds, that jump, he'll be on second before the ball is out of the pitcher's hands.
Paul Konerko would steal second.
Paul Konerko would steal. Dude, let's pick other freaking White Sox legends that would be out there. How about Jim Thome? Jim Thome would have 500 stolen bases in his career.
Jim Thome was actually a pretty smart base runner, believe it or not. He couldn't run,
I know,
but
that's what I'm saying.
But Paul Konerko had the legs of an 80-year-old woman with an arthritic hip. So
yes.
He had a top half of a grown ass man, but bottom half old lady. And
you can't have these rules though late in the game
at all.
Look, for starting pitchers, it's one thing.
Was on the rule committee.
Yeah, I don't.
One of the smartest guys ever.
Well, maybe that's why that's a rule, because he's like, look, I want to help out base runners. Screw pitchers. I'm an offensive guy. You know what? They need to get Roger Clemens on the freaking committee. They need to get a pitcher.
Nolan Ryan. How about that?
Of some, it is have freaking Randy Johnson stop taking photos for the NFL and come out of the rules committee and help out these pitchers. Because when you bring in a relief pitcher in the 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning, with a runner on first and a runner on second, it is too critical of a situation to have to, 1, worry about a pitch clock, 2, worry about how many times you're throwing over to first, how many times you're stepping off the rubber. That you're taking the game out of the game. And what are they saving?
That does make sense now.
What are they saving?
I don't get. It's just too much, man, with sports these days. Like everything is about viewers and eyes on the screen, and like I texted you yesterday. This isn't for us. This is.
But how much time are you saving for the casual fan? I watched a 3-hour and 25-minute spring training game yesterday with a pitch clock. 3 hours and 25 minutes. Which, by the way, on Ron Sando's birthday, the Cubs scored 10 runs and won. So that was great, by the way. But.
Next stop, World Series.
I watched a 3-hour and 25-minute spring training game yesterday. You're not saving time. You're not.
From some of the stats that they put up in the Sox game, it's like 20 or 30 minutes in one of the minor league. When they had these rules in the minors last year, it did go down 20 or 30 minutes. But I mean,
how you save 20 or 30 minutes? You go with soccer ads instead of commercials every time a pitcher comes in relief, or every time a pitcher, or even in between innings. You don't have to go to a 4.5-minute commercial break.
The throw over rule is, I didn't even know that rule. That's how naive I am. And I think it's idiotic. And talk about sarcasm. Steve Stone kept saying, I love the new rules.
The rules. Yeah, I switched over for about 10 minutes of the White Sox game yesterday, and that's what sarcasm. That's what he was just. I love these new, and I'm like, no, you don't. No, you do not, because there is no way a baseball fan, a baseball purist, a baseball player will like these rules. The pitch clock in itself is a good idea. You know what? I'm okay with having I would push it back more. I would say 25 with a runner on, with nobody on base, and 30 with a runner on base. I think that's more realistic. Guys like, there are guys that will use it to their advantage. Like a guy like Marcus Stroman would use it to his advantage. You know what I mean? He likes to work quick. Mark Burley would have loved.
Oh my God.
This. He would have loved this, right?
Hour and 45-minute games.
But when you've got too many advantages for the hitters and base runners and not enough for the pitchers. Now, on the opposite end of this, not only do you have to be you don't just have to be in the box with 8 seconds to go on the clock. You have to be in a set position looking at the pitcher as a hitter with 8 seconds to go on the clock. And that is why that game ended yesterday. He was in the box, but he was still moving the bat and he wasn't looking at the pitcher with 8 seconds to go, which, by the way, the pitcher wasn't even ready to throw the ball.
Unbelievable.
The pitcher actually stepped off of the rubber as the umpire made the call. He was stepping off because he wasn't ready to throw the pitch and he saw the clock was winding down. This rule, because once these games start and once these games matter March 30th, this can't happen. It can't.
It's the most thoughtful sport. I've always thought that way, that it's really between the ears where the sport is played more than any other sport. And there's no time to think anymore. And
Yeah.
I think that was the point that Stone was making without actually saying it. If you were to honestly talk to him about it, which I'm sure he's going to come, the guy's just too honest. I'm sure he's going to come out with a scathing review of these new rules. How do you do this? I know you put these rules into practice in spring training because you want to see how they work out, and then maybe you work out the kinks and then you know take some of these rules back. There's no way that the pickoff rule can stay. I mean, do you believe that? There's just no way the pickoff rules can stay.
No, the pickoff rules can't stay.
They can't.
And,
They can't.
And I think you have to be a little bit more lenient you have to allow the umpires the ability to use common sense. It can't just be you have to be staring at if the pitcher is not ready to throw, why do I have to be in a ready position staring at the pitcher? The pitcher stepped off of the rubber because you could see all of a sudden he steps off the rubber and he looks at the umpire because he thought he got called. He thought he did something wrong because even the players don't know the rules right now. So like it was so bad. And I can't.
Clunky. It is. The pitch clock is okay though, but yeah, it's clunky. I don't want Steve Traxel up there or Freddie Garcia. I mean, Freddie Garcia used to be like a minute and a half between each pitch.
Yeah,
sometimes
he was brutal.
He'd walk around on the mound like he was an old man looking for coins on a beach. Like I don't want that either. I mean,
let me ask you a question. It's September 30th. The White Sox are in a tie in the NL Central
with the
playing.
Last series is
so they're in a tie. They have to beat the Padres. The Guardians won their game already. You have to win the game to get into a 1-game playoff. And you have Eloy Jimenez stepping in with 2 strikes, and he's not looking at the pitcher with 8 seconds to go. And he's called out.
You haven't even said the scenario yet.
And he's called out.
Already angry.
Like this, it can't. It's got to go away. I get what you're trying to do, but it's got to go away.
Training game yesterday.
Yeah.
If that happened, I just don't get what is happening. And you know, we talked about it last week. About what's happening to sports and what's happening to everything. Everything is TikTok now. Like, yeah. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, make a quality product. How about that, Major League Baseball? Rob Manfred, the you know,
God, I hate that.
Maybe the worst fucking commissioner in sports right now.
Maybe sports history. Maybe he's the worst commissioner in sports history. He called the trophy a hunk of metal. He called the trophy a hunk of metal.
Yeah, I know. That's ridiculous, too.
He's the worst commissioner in sports history, and he is ruining this game. You said it earlier, man. These are rules not for you and I, but for the casual fan. Yeah. These are rules made for the fan that goes to the game and has no idea what is going on anyway and is too busy drinking their beer and talking with their friends to even know who won the game when they left.
You just perfectly explained 80% of Cubs fans. But anyway, true. No, you're right. You're right on. You're right on, man. Because this is, I don't get it. I don't get these rules. It was rolled out like ham-handedly. It's ridiculous. I just can't believe that they're doing this to this sport. I mean, I don't care. Look, make a quality sport. Stop blacking out games. They just started putting highlights on social media like 10 years after every other sport did. I mean, what are you doing? Make a quality product, and who gives a shit about the fucking fans sometimes? Even the casual fan, make a quality product.
I know.
You have the best talent since the early 90s in this sport, and you're going to do this to it. Like, it's ridiculous. And I don't want to be one of those people that just says throw it all out. But the shift too, like, I don't get that either. Yeah, there's going to be more athletic plays. They should be able to line up any way they want in the field. They should be able to put one fielder out there. I mean, this is baseball. You should be able to do whatever the hell you want, right?
Here's why I'm okay with the no shift. And I was watching yesterday. It's not gone, right? You can't be, you're not going to have, you could still have a short fielder if you wanted to. You just got to pull your left fielder into short right field, or your right fielder into short left field. Yeah. And you can play on the edge of the grass. You can play all the way up to even with your side of second base. Like, the shift is not gone. Here's what and we had this conversation before, and I said, I think that the shift is going to help hitters hit.
Left-handed hitters,
but
it is a way more lefty sport now.
What I didn't take into account, what I thought of the other day was, is it really going to help that much with players today because of the launch angle theory? These players are still striking out 150 to 200 times, some 300 times in a season. Like, these guys who are hitting 215, they can't hit anyway. They're hitting 215 with 40 bombs because their batting average is all on their home runs. Like, that's all that they do. Well, Kyle Schwarber will actually see pitch. That's the one thing that I always liked about Kyle Schwarber. He will have good at bats. He'll still strike out, but he will
outcome player.
He's got a great eye at the plate. But I'm talking about your what's his face over Giancarlo Stanton. I'm talking about, guys like that who just strike out at an enormous clip, right? He strikes out 3 times a game. I believe it was 75 times last year. He struck out 3 times in a game. Tony Gwynn did that once in his career. Tony Gwynn, like guys like that. It's going to help out like Nico Hoerner. Right, because now a ball up the middle is going to be a ball up the middle. Like his first at bat yesterday in spring training was it's perfect, because I really do like the Cubs lineup. There's a lot of ifs in the Cubs lineup. Nico Hoerner can flat out put the bat on the ball. It's going to help out guys like Nick Madrigal.
Yep.
Who puts the bat on the ball and makes contact. It's going to help out those guys. But these guys that are 215 hitters, they're going to stay 215 hitters because they strike out way too much to do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I'm just saying, it just became a way more lefty sport than it already was. And I just think it's an unfair advantage to pitchers. I mean, look, how long have they been doing shifts? I mean, really? I know that it got pronounced
probably about 12 years. Yeah, probably about 12 years.
They were doing shifts like 50 years ago. They actually were.
Yeah.
If you look at, you go back into baseball,
it just
history,
wasn't as extreme. Yeah. That's why they call this the extreme shift and not just the shift.
I hate to pick on basketball again, but I'm going to. It's not basketball. The field is giant. All the fields are. Even Sox Park is. Even Yankee.
Look at your big ass head barely even covers center field in that photo. That's how much ground they have to cover.
Yes. My nose does, though. But
the whole right side of the infield just went away.
Yes. Disappeared. But no, I mean, it's a giant field. You don't need to govern it like basketball does, where you can't be under the basket for 3 seconds. Everybody knows that rule, or some people don't. You can't be under the basket as an offensive player for 3 seconds. Even defensive players can't go down there just because the the players are giant now, and the basketball court has shrunk. You can't shrink a baseball field, but that's what they're. I mean, I just don't get it. I really don't. It doesn't. And oh yeah, there'll be more athletic plays, and then something else they brought up, which I got, like a hit off the bat. The fan will know that it's a hit right away, like you said, the hit up the middle.
Yep.
What the fuck do I need that for? I just don't get it. I mean, why do I need to know when something's a hit off the bat?
Right.
I mean,
for the people that know, if for the people that are like, oh well, baseball is a dying breed. I mean, look at the picture behind you, right? I know they probably photoshopped 90% of those fans into that stadium because it's never that full, but
over 2 million fans last year, Combs.
That's fine. You got much more seating than Wrigley Field, and Cubs had more attendance. Just saying.
Why are Cubs fans are the only fans in sports that are just over into
because Comiskey Park is the only stadium that you could be 30 games over 500 and still be able to talk to your friend who's sitting in left field while you're in right field. Okay, look, but anyway, look, baseball is doing just fine. People are not going away from baseball. I was talking to you before the game. The baseball All-Star game last year had its lowest ratings in history. Still had higher ratings than the Pro Bowl, which it should, by 1.5 million, and still have better ratings than the NBA All-Star game by 3.5 million. It's still fine. Baseball is fine. I went to a game on September 30th last year because we went there because I got married on October 1st. We went there for the a bachelor party. So all my guys that came into town for the wedding, we all went over to go and see the Cubs game. They all wanted to see Wrigley Field. So we go to Wrigley Field on September 30th, a team that is, 25 games out of first place. And it was packed. We were fighting for seats in the bleachers. Yeah. Like, baseball is fine. Stop messing with it, Rob Manfred. In some of these rules, I'm okay with. The larger bag, sure, because I think it's going to help prevent injuries to infielders. And I believe you should be able to allow now to try to break up a double play. They already stopped trying to break up. It's stupid. We do that at men's league softball. We try to break up double plays. You can't do it in Major League Baseball. It's stupid. But now you're taking away a pitcher's ability to play a chess match with a base runner. You've already taken away a manager's ability to play a chess match with the other manager by making freaking relievers face 3 hitters once they come into a game. Another rule that needs to go away. Because there's no reason why I should bring in a lefty to face a lefty, and then that lefty has to face 2 righties right after that. It's stupid. It's a dumb rule. It's another one that needs to go away. There are so many things that you could do with baseball to make people more interested in baseball. How about this, Rob Manfred? Instead of changing rules to make baseball more interesting to the casual fan, how about you fucking market the game?
Yeah.
When was the last time baseball marketed itself properly? When was the last time you saw Mike Trout on a T-Mobile commercial? When was the last time you saw Mike Trout on any commercial? Like you don't see faces of the league. Why isn't Shohei Ohtani in commercials? John Fitzgibbon says lower beer prices. Look, they're not going to lower beer prices because we still pay them. Yeah, if you want them to lower beer prices, you got to go to a game and not drink beer.
Bring a flask into the game.
Yeah, or go to the bar ahead of time. Go to the bar ahead of time. I don't. When I go to a game, I'll get 1 beer. That's it. And I'll drink at the bar before, and I'll drink at the bar after. 1 beer at the game is I'm paying you $10. That's it. That's all you're getting out of me. You've already got the $70 I paid for my seat in the last row of the stadium. You're not getting $10 per beer for me to sit there and drink a 6-pack. It's not happening. And until fans stop buying beer, it's the same thing with gas prices, right? Until we don't have a need for gas and stop paying the prices, they're never going to go down. They're just not. I mean, they'll go down, for about a month before, elections, but they'll go right back up afterwards. It's not look, the prices is a completely different scenario. The prices in baseball, fans are still going to games. We're still going. I've got tickets for April 8th. I've got tickets for May 8th. I've got tickets. I've got tickets lined up. I've already got games that I want to go. I'm still paying prices to go see games. It's not changing. I'm paying the $60 for the parking.
They know we're gonna keep paying,
right, and that's just where we're going with it. So look, baseball's not dying. Rob Manfred needs to die, just like Virginia McCaskey. That's what needs to happen. That's how baseball gets better.
How many people are you gonna kill on this show,
dude? I'll tell you right now, I'll kill Rob Manfred before I kill Virginia McCaskey. That's how much I dislike that guy. That guy. All right, are you ready to get into some Fitz gibberish?
Yeah, I guess.
All right, let's do it. Cue the music.
You're bumming me out. All right, another episode of Fitz Gibberish. Here we go. I'm not really gonna have much of an intro.
You're not looking at the screen, are you?
What's that?
I said you're not looking at the screen, are you?
I'm looking at you. Oh my God. White Sox won before the Cubs, but nobody remembers. Look at my face in that picture. You know, I should say something about this picture. When I left broadcasting, this was the day after it. It was probably one of the worst days of my life, and I look like it. But anyway, look at this kid right here. Oh boy, my hairline is retreating. But anyway,
I hate cancer.
I hate cancer. I will come unhinged right here in this segment of Fitz Gibberish. I love it. Nice work. Well, I'm titling this A Letter to Jerry Reinsdorf in regards to Jose Abreu and how the fuck we got here.
Oh, God.
To go forward so often, we must look back. And we'll try to take you back to when all was right in Reinsdorfia. It was October 28th, 2005. The White Sox won the World Series, and it was parade day. The day that would wipe out memories of breaking up the MJ dynasty. The day that would wipe out all talk of Jerry being cheap, of not being able to win a World Series, of not being a good baseball man, as they say it. The day Jer Bear would trade all 6 of his NBA rings for. Paul Konerko strolled up to the dance with a plan. Said his piece. People doubted them. People thought they'd be out in the first round against Boston, etc., etc. A few promises about next year, doing it again. That 2016 was damn good, actually. We can relitigate that later. He then asked Jerry up to the mic and said, everyone kept asking me the last couple days what happened to that last ball for that last out. Well, it's going to this man right here because he earned it. Then he gave the ball to Jerry. Jerry was visibly overcome with emotion as he caressed that ball in his sweaty hands. Jerry was 69 years old. Bulls revisionist history aside, it was hard to argue at that point that Jerry wasn't one of the best owners in sports, or at least in Chicago sports, as I'm sure Combs agrees. 20 years owning the Bulls, 24 years owning the Sox, chairman of the board, only owning fractions of the team, but whatever. He had presided over winning 7 championships over those years. He had won his World Series, and his legacy would be cemented. As everyone knows in Chicago, cement breaks, crumbles, cracks, and in some cases disintegrates. And then all spring, we get to bitch about it. It wouldn't be long before the Sox cement began to crack. An unlikely 2008 playoff bid, well short. Some lean years and the Blizzard of Oz hit. A classic case of Ozzie Guillen having a big head. He went to Florida to cheer on the Florida Castros. He managed for 1 year after pissing off Florida, which is hard to say because back then half the Florida was on bath salts. Anyway, Reinsdorf did what many are doing now with current inflation, decided not to buy something. Mostly people decide not to buy a car, a bike, or a hooker. Jerry decided to not buy a manager. He hired Robin Ventura, who was not a manager because he had zero experience, did not even want to do the job, and at a pulse rate just a hair above a corpse. After Robin left, or just a hair above Virginia McCaskey, let's just say that. After Robin left, after an abysmal 375 and 435 record over 5 seasons, which included one of the worst pennant races in history in 2012, he went on to bore the shit out of family and friends. According to Rick Hahn, the Sox were mired in mediocrity. I think I had some harsher words for it for the Ventura years, but Hahn got that Harvard education for a reason. After we were done looking up the word mired, they traded Sale, they traded Adam Eaton, which is still the most lopsided trade this side of the Great Bambino. And a good runner-up to that, a trade of Quintana to Combs' Cubbies. That's how we got Dylan Cease, by the way. Oh, yeah, and I almost forgot. and oh, yeah, I almost forgot. Billing all of this around a giant first baseman they brought in 2014. The man who had to eat his passport and wash it down with a Corona to get here. The man who left his family for years to be here. The man who dreamed of learning English only to sing the national anthem to start a White Sox game. America is seldom more beautiful than through the eyes of an immigrant. Jose Abreu would win the Rookie of the Year at age 27. And it wasn't even close. Batting .317, slugging an obscene .581, and hitting 36 home runs. He would have 4 years in a row with 30 home runs and 100 RBIs on some of the most god-awful offensive teams that you'd ever want to see. I mean, it made the dead ball era look like it was filled with steroids. Abreu wore out the AL East heavyweights, collecting 10 hits and 17 at-bats as the Sox earned a split. I've said this before. CC Sabathia, one of the best pitchers to ever play the game, said, I mean, he killed us. We were all talking about how tough a hitter he is, how hard to face he is. He's one of the best hitters in the game. His swing, short, quick, powerful. He barrels everything up, man. I'm telling you, his swing is going to play forever. Dude's ability was only matched by the toughness and leadership he showed. The White Sox clubhouse to a man would agree. Guys like Kopech, Moncada, Vaughn, Jimenez, Dylan Cease from the Cubbies, Roberts, Giolito, goddamn Robert, that ability, and Larry Garcia. No, not Larry Garcia. I was just kidding.
Robert would have to do it from the IR.
You're right about that. He worked out, though, in the offseason, so we'll see. Oh, yeah, and a shortstop. A no bullshit, not getting forgiveness because he didn't ask for it. No nonsense. No baseball unwritten rules. Bat flipping, Jackie Robinson comparing. That's his comparison. Shit talking shortstop. A shortstop who made national sporting news with putting his ability where his mouth was. A hitting savant who I once saw run up to the batter's box for a slow pitcher like he was playing 16-inch softball. I've never seen that before. Taking a high-end, what did they do after that? They took a high-end industrial strength leaf blower to an old, out-of-touch, dusty game. All I'll say is Ricky Renteria's tenure is that no man has brought more Chicago teams to the brink of greatness only to get shown the door. A batshit crazy syphilis-ridden Al Capone got off better. Despite some of his head-shaking decisions in the 2020 playoffs, his team could rake, and the future was bright. When he was shown the door in what Rick Hahn called a mutual agreement, A.J. Hinch, his name, was batted around. He was done in Houston, I'll say with the help from a trash can and a TV monitor. There was no doubt, though, that he was the top candidate for the job. And I hate the Astros like I hated the 90s Pistons. But I wanted him. All the while, those 3 little words from the Polish prince, Paul Konerko himself, must have echoed in Jerry Bear's head. He earned it. He earned the $1.8 billion net worth of the Sox. He earned the bachelor's degree in arts and science at George Washington University, the law degree at Northwestern University. He earned the PhD in sodomy as an IRS tax attorney. Yes, you heard that right. He was an IRS tax attorney. Now, I don't have proof that he was a sodomist, and I don't even know if that's a word. And that, but parasites don't even feed on IRS lawyers' colons. And I've always liked Jerry, always thought he kept himself insulated from criticism, maybe a little too much. Thought he gave his loyalty mostly just to get it returned. And yes, the bottom line always took the front seat over the right athletic fit, over innovation, over being the first to cultivate intellectual talent needed to win in the hardest game in sports. But the emotions were real on that day. The hands held that ball the same way my hands hold a ball 1,000 times as a kid. The eyes glazed in wonder at this stupid little sport the way mine had. A kid's game played by giant men for even larger figures, steroids aside. These players are science projects of human beings, taking the human body to lengths athletically that would seem abnormal just a few decades ago. Absurdities stacked upon absurdities as to why we watch to unaffordable heights. Many nights, and we just talked about it, staying up way too late with childlike obsession to watch the 19th of a 162 game season. We saw that with the same eyes, Jer and I. Anyone who didn't were like trying to teach the blind to see. I once called someone Hitler for unfairly criticizing Jerry Reinsdorf. So I spotted him 7 years of Abreu's career. Again, baseball is the hardest sport we have for a reason, and it will painfully remind you of that, which is the overarching reason why you cannot waste 1 second of a championship window. Ask the damn Yankees and Dodgers. They don't waste one fucking game. The Sox needed a manager, and on any other team, it would have been the GM's choice. A guy whose very job it is to know the pulse of baseball. But what did Jer Bear do? He earned it. So he made the decision. And the manager he got was a fucking emotional vampire. Enter the most baffling decision in Chicago sports history, maybe in sports history. Fucking Tony La Russa. Yeah. And that decision leads on to Mike Clevenger, to Tim Anderson getting mad at Chuck Garfien, talk about vanilla ice cream, for criticizing the team because they earned it. So it's White Sox thoughts, not baseball thoughts. It's what White Sox want to do. And if moving forward, that's how it's going to be, I don't know how much longer I can be a fan of this team. Rant over. I know it was long.
It's gibberish.
It's gibberish. A lot I've said before, but I just can't believe the direction of this team and the direction of baseball. I mean,
look,
and the Mike Clevenger stuff, he's going to sue the score now, and Tim Anderson going off to Chuck Garfien. Does that happen with any other team in the league?
Well, the Clevenger stuff is just, I mean, it's just stupid. I mean, I listened to the interview with his ex that they did, which, by the way, was a great idea to go and get her and get her side of the story to find out what's actually going on. You know, and I'm not one that is like, hey, we've got to, you know, damn this man, right? Because I stuck up for his buddy. What's his name there in LA?
Trevor Bauer.
I think Trevor Bauer is a wrong place, wrong time suspension. I still don't believe he should have been suspended. I've been on Deshaun Watson's side since the start of the Deshaun Watson stuff because I think that he was put through the ringer. Mike Clevenger is just an asshole. Mike Clevenger is just an ass. I'd look for $1 million. I'll be his masseuse. Mike Clevenger is a scumbag. So I think that stuff will handle itself. The Tim Anderson stuff, man, I definitely want to
It's
get
troubling.
into, because
And
the Tim Anderson stuff,
yeah, it's troubling.
I love TA. He's one of my favorite players in the game to watch.
Yep.
But what he said, and for those of you that don't know, Chuck Garfien had an interview on Real Talk, and
we can't play it, but yeah.
No, we can't play it. But what he said was, and these are his words. This is a direct quote. If you're a part of this and you're like one of our supporters and you see somebody struggling, if you see your wife struggling, you're going to pat her on the back, right? So that's kind of one of those things. If we're under the same umbrella, we should all be pulling from the same screen and not tearing each other down and not tearing players down. We don't tear you down as fans. So I just think it's one of those things. We got to support each other. We support you. We make ourselves accessible to you, when you talk to us. So it's just kind of one of those things where we all got to be on a positive screen. I think we can be better as a whole. So
talk about Fitz gibberish. That's White Sox gibberish. I mean, it comes from the top gibberish down.
But isn't that part of 2023 though? Like, isn't that more about the world and the generation that we're living in with the I'm offended mentality? Which, look, Tim Anderson, I love you as a player. I love watching your game. I think you are one of the most passionate players in the game. I think you are I put a post out the other day that Tim Anderson is probably the most undervalued player in all of Major League Baseball. And I totally believe that.
Yep.
I do. But what he said here is completely incorrect. And it's actually completely
black and white.
Naive to believe what you're saying there, because what you're saying is that fans don't have the right to voice their opinions about your team, which, by the way, Chuck Garfien and the fans were just trying to hold you guys accountable for what they knew was going on. Chuck Garfien was completely him and Ozzie last year after Sox games. I would watch every post-game show after Sox games because they were honest about the team. They were honest about TLR and how stupid and idiotic some of his calls were. Like, so for Tim Anderson to not understand, hey, look, you guys underperformed. For 2 years, you guys underperformed. You guys oversold and underdelivered. And the fans weren't happy about it. You guys were supposed to be a World Series contender the last 2 years. And instead, through no fault of your own, Tim Anderson, you didn't hire the manager. But you were still playing on this team. And whether or not you guys believed in Tony La Russa's philosophy, whether or not you liked some of the things he was doing, you guys still could have come together as a team and played and performed better on the field.
With some more energy.
Yeah,
you make millions of dollars to get hammered when you suck.
Yes.
That's what media is. They'll lift you up when you win a championship, and they'll tear you down when you suck and you underachieve. They were the most the most underachieving team in the sport last year.
Yeah,
and it wasn't even close.
It wasn't us as close. Fans, we are allowed to be unhappy when our teams look.
Exactly.
Cubs fans were very vocal the year that the Cubs were trading Rizzo and Bryant and Schwarber and Baez, right? Like we weren't happy about them disbanding the team, but we also understood that it was a business. So we voiced our displeasure with players as they came in to take over for those guys. I remember when what was his name now? Schwindel. Frank Schwindel played first base. His first game, he got booed as he took the field because he was taking over for Rizzo. Like, Cubs fans were not happy with the way things are. I'm still not happy with the way that team was handled after 2016. They didn't fill holes. They wanted these guys to overcome what they clearly could not do. Like they were trying to rely on their ceiling and what they could do as opposed to helping them fill holes. Never went out and got a leadoff hitter. Never went out and got a true center fielder after Dexter Fowler left. Never went out and helped your pitching, an aging pitching rotation. Never went out and did the things that you needed to do to put your lineup in a better position to succeed after 2016. That pisses me off as a fan. And as a fan, I have the right to voice that opinion because not only is it accurate, but I'm a fan. I pay good money to go sit in the stand. When we sat in the stands about that game I just talked to you about on September 30th last year, dude, I was yelling so much stuff at the center or at the right fielder for the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, at one point you could see his head go down and his shoulders bobbing because he was laughing at some of the things I was saying, right? Like 3 balls went in the gap between him and the other player. He kept pulling out his fielding card to see where he lined up. And I yelled at him. I said, I think your card's upside down because you're always in the wrong spot. And he just starts laughing, right? Because we're fans. We're allowed to interact. Now, I'm not saying you've got the right to go out there and start yelling whatever you want at them. You can't be out there and yelling obscenities.
Are you saying you can't beat up the first base coach?
Yeah, you can't go attack the first base coach like White Sox fans. You can't be yelling racial slurs like they've done at NBA games and I'm sure everywhere, major league games, all that stuff. You can't do that stuff, right? But as a fan, you can have an opinion about your team. You can tell when your team is doing poorly, you boo. When your team is not performing up to code, you boo. And when your manager is walking a guy twice on a 1-2 count intentionally, you're going to be unhappy because it is a bad call. It is a bad play. When your team is supposed to be competing for a World Series and American League Championship, and you can't even beat the Guardians for the division, you have every right to be unhappy.
And that was coming off a game where Leury Garcia was batting 180 and led off. That was the second game of the series. They should have swept the Dodgers that series. They won one game. But, I think you made a wrong distinction when you said, I am offended. That's not what he was saying. He was saying Chuck Garfien and the fans were offensive, which is a distinction, actually, because we weren't offensive. You can be offended. That's okay. Get over it, motherfucker. That's what you get paid for. But to say it is offensive and that Chuck Garfien, of all people, who's your fucking biggest cheerleader, should not criticize your team is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It has, you're right. It's the same thing that's pervading our entire country right now, where you have to be in an echo chamber where everybody agrees with you, and then how does shit get fixed?
Right.
How do we criticize ourselves? Can we not criticize ourselves anymore? Can we not be offended? I'm offended all the time. I don't give a shit. Like, come on. I mean,
if everything was perfect, there would be no need for us in any aspect of anything.
Yep.
Right? Because if everything was perfect and nothing ever needed to be fixed, there would be no need for electricians, plumbers, carpenters. There'd be no need because everything's perfect. The world is meant to be imperfect. Humans are imperfect
and messy.
I mean, hell, look, CB Buckner is the perfect example of an imperfect human yesterday. I don't know if anybody saw, but he's still holding a grudge on the Cardinals manager, which I don't care. It's the Cardinals. But he wouldn't shake his hand before a preseason game because of something that he said to him last year. Like, it's not like human beings are imperfect. You look at everything in every aspect of the world. I see it all the time. I see it on the NFL fields. End racism. That's a great theory. And racism is stupid and it's dumb. And I don't condone it in any aspect. But you're never going to end it because there are people with opinions. And that's the thing. Like you know what's funny? I went to Bourbon Street on Thursday night, right? And I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I went to Bourbon Street on Thursday night to throw bags, and I end up throwing, and they call a partner and his name, and I'm like, dude, I went to high school with a guy by that name. I wonder if it's the same guy. Well, we didn't like each other in high school. I didn't like his group of friends. He didn't like my group of friends, and he even asked me later on in the night. He's like, hey, was I a dick to you in high school? I was like, yeah, you're kind of a dick to everybody in high school. And he's like, dude, I'm so sorry. We were kids, right?
Yeah.
Like we didn't know any better. Adults, human beings, we are imperfect. We don't always know the right answers. We don't always know what to do, but you can look past stuff that might offend you or might, bother you, and you can keep living your life because who cares what that person says. When I went in the Marine Corps, I got into a fight. I went in with a guy who was our star running back in high school. We both went in at the same time. We were in boot camp at the same time. We got into hand-to-hand combat, and I got picked on a lot in high school. I was just a scrawny little punk that just I didn't care. So we got into hand-to-hand combat, and I messed him up. And he's like, "Dude, why did you let people mess with you in high school?" I said, "What do I care what they say?"
Yeah.
Because that's always been my mentality. That's who I am. Like, I don't care what the next person thinks. I'm my own person. So I'm going to look at things from both sides of the fence. I don't have to have an R or a D next to my name when I'm dealing with politics, right? Like I
Mhm.
listen. I listen to what people say. I don't care what people think about my opinion because it's my opinion. You don't
Yeah.
have to agree with it, but
You
that's
shouldn't
what it is.
always agree with
Right.
it.
You might
I
have the same damn opinion, but we might have different philosophies about that opinion, right? Like we both want the Bears to get better. You want the Bears to get better through free agency. I want Virginia McCaskey to die. Right? We have the
I'm
same
pro-life.
opinion, but
I'm
different
not
philosophies.
against abortion, but I'm pro-life.
Right. Like
There's another one
you
too.
hate cancer, but you don't hate people with cancer. Like it's a completely different
I
thing.
kind of hate Trey Mancini though, but
Because he's a Cub. You'd love him if he was signed by the Sox.
wasn't it awesome, Liam Hendricks? Not to change the subject, because I really want to stay here. But wasn't it awesome seeing Liam Hendricks do a bullpen session? I think we talked about it last week, but he was with the team a lot this week. Like,
right.
That's great to see. Like, I mean,
what's going on, Johnny?
Yep. Thank you, Johnny. Johnny Torres, everybody checks in. Good to see him checking in. But yeah, I mean, it was just awesome to see him there, and he's fighting this thing. And talk about a guy who doesn't care about being offensive. I mean, if we're going to talk to each other, how do we talk to each other without being offensive? I mean, how do we even have a conversation? I mean, we're going against Terry Bradshaw. Like, come on. Or Chuck Garfien. Those are the people? I mean,
do you remember Eddie Murphy Raw?
Yeah, exactly. How does Eddie Murphy make it right now?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about
if it's not for Raw, you don't know who he is.
One of the most talented comedians ever. How does he make it right now? He doesn't. He wanted to start up his stand-up career. Now COVID got in the way, but he was worried about it because of what's happening. Yeah. I mean, are you kidding me? Now get a backbone, Eddie Murphy, for Christ's sake, in your palace in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys that still get away with, like Bill Burr. Like, you don't care what he says, but you know what I mean. Like, but you can't be like people in this world, man. It's gotten to the point, and Tim Anderson, to me, what his statement is exactly what is wrong with everything that we have to encounter.
Yep.
Like, we have to worry. We don't have to worry. That's why I like being on the platform that we're on, because who's going to cancel us? We run our own shit. We're in our basements running our own shit. So if you don't want to watch, that's fine. You're one of 5 people that's not going to watch today. Great. You know what I mean? But you got people out there that can't say what they believe because they're afraid to get canceled, and they might just be saying it for a joke. I said, you know how many jokes I've told that they're jokes, and people, if I listen to them, I'm like, ugh. But it's a joke. You know what I mean? And there's things that you can do in this world. There's things that you can say in this world. And I understand there's things that you can't do and things that you can't say, right? Like there are definitely times and places for you to do and say stuff. But as long as you are not harming somebody, as long as you are not injuring somebody, as long as you are not doing something to somebody, if you're not being mentally abusive, like those types of things like we've just got to get over it. Tim Anderson has to get over this. This is a bad look for TA.
And I've disagreed with him before, but this is deeper than that. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's black and white. There's so many things that are gray,
Yeah.
that we don't know the answer to, or we don't want to know it, or whatever the case may be. This is black and white. He's just wrong. And his philosophy is wrong. The very foundation of the team that I love is not right. It just isn't. And it hasn't been for a while.
Fans in other stadiums now know they could probably get in his head, right?
Yeah.
If you're a fan in another stadium, if you go to Detroit,
that's a good point.
Or
other players.
I'm gonna start shouting all sorts of stupid shit at you.
What did Donaldson do with the Yankees last year? Called him Jackie Robinson. Oh no, and he got suspended a game and all that. But he knew he could get in. Why did Josh Donaldson do that? Because he knew he could get in his head, even though. To Tim's credit, he didn't say anything. It was Grandal that got in Josh Donaldson's face,
right? But
in that game, but still, he
was just saying what TA said about himself.
Yeah,
that's the thing that pissed me off. I'm like, how does he get suspended for saying the same thing that Tim Anderson said about himself 3 hours ago? Like, what are you doing? What are we doing as baseball and as a society when a guy who says something about somebody that they've already said about themselves, like that? Well, that's the thing. I told my daughter the other day. Is that the difference between her generation and my generation is that if they want to mess with you, you guys can do it online and through computers and through all these other things. Back in my day, if somebody wanted to talk shit to me, they actually had to talk shit to me.
Yeah, like they had to punch you in the face.
Right. You couldn't post it on my Facebook page or on my TikTok or on my whatever feed. You had to talk to me, and I had a choice. I would either take it or I'm gonna punch you in the teeth.
Yeah.
Like that is it's so crazy. I think that social media is a great platform when it's used properly.
Yeah.
But it has ruined so much of this country, so much of our childhood. And I'm not the get off my lawn guy at all because I use every platform.
I feel sorry for you that you have a daughter that's on social media. Like that's just I mean, it's hellish, but doesn't the pendulum have to swing back at some point? Do people just have to be like, I don't care what you say about me on social media?
Yes.
I mean, at some point, I maybe that'll never come. Maybe it's just human nature for us to be like this, but
we've got to teach our kids.
Like it's going to start swinging back to where it's like, there's so much noise that you can't hear anything anymore.
That comes from us teaching our kids that what is said, no matter where it's said, whether it's on social media, whether it's on the internet, whether it's on, somebody walking past you in the hallway. Who cares? Who cares what they say?
Yeah.
If I'm walking past somebody and they call me a fat ass, right? So, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm fat because every time I fucked your mom, she made me a sandwich. So, like what I mean? Like just it doesn't have to be as bad as it is, and we make it bad because we are so concerned with what is said about us. We are so concerned with our images now that it consumes us, right? Like we're worried about what is being said. I look at Twitter all the time when I'm trying to find out, like, hey, is Patrick Kane going to the New York Rangers? So I'm going through Twitter, I'm going through different feeds, and players are doing that too, and seeing this guy said that, and this guy said that, and who cares? Tim Anderson, who cares if White Sox fans were booing you last year? You were a 500 team that should have been in the World Series, that on paper is better than just about any other team in the American League. Yep. And you were a 500 team. You deserved to be booed. You deserve to not have the backs, the fans to not have your back. You deserve for Chuck Garfien to be calling you vanilla ice cream. You deserved it all.
Yep.
So
did the Padres get booed last year? I'm sure. Did the Phillies? I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
Did the Yankees get booed last year? The Yankees got booed last year. Did they?
The American League
Are
MVP.
You a good team if you care about the criticism that you deserve? Are you a good team? No. Are you a good organization? No, you're not.
Aaron Judge was booed in the playoffs by Yankee fans in Yankee Stadium.
He hit over 60.
He won the MVP and had 60 home runs. And he was booed in the playoffs because he struck out in a key situation. And you know what he
Basically,
did?
As a dead ball hit.
You know what he
era,
did?
a
He
little bit.
re-signed. He had so many offers and he still re-signed with the Yankees. That's a player I want on my team.
Yep.
That because he doesn't care. He doesn't care what
Yep.
you think of him.
And
He doesn't care what you say about
because
him.
he's good.
He's great. And so is Tim Anderson. And Tim Anderson needs to just shut up and go play ball.
If you're this easily rattled, it's just, you know, and he's one of my favorite players too, but if you're this easily rattled, you're not a great player. You're just a very good one.
Cubs fans right now are out of their minds right now because Wilson Contreras said in an interview over the weekend that the Cardinals are a better organization than the Cubs. Well, one, Cubs fans, as I sit here with my jersey and my hat on because I love this team,
Yep.
the Cardinals are a better organization than the Cubs. They've been a better organization than the Cubs for a very long time.
Yep.
And they continue to be a better organization than the Cubs. They don't miss on players. They are constantly in the race to win. No matter who they lose, they are constantly in a position to win. They have a great GM. They have a great owner. They have from the top down, they are a great organization. They are something that the Cubs are not. However, Cubs fans, what do you want Wilson Contreras to say? He plays for the Cardinals now.
Yeah.
If he was still a Chicago Cub, do you think he would have said those same words? No, he would have defended the Cubs. He's defending his teams. He's supposed to say that. He's not going to come out and say that, he loves Cubs fans more than Cardinals fans because he is in St. Louis now. And you have to get over that fact. You cannot. The truth is the truth, right? The truth is that the Cardinals are a better organization. The truth is also that the Cubs have won more divisions and more World Series in the last 10 years than the Cardinals have. So what are we complaining about?
Better. I'm like, there's no sport where intellectual property that's where you win games in baseball.
Yeah.
Like I said before, it's a thinking man sport, and it's a thinking man sport for a reason. That's where baseball games are won, and the intellectual property that the Cardinals own, that the Astros own, that the fucking Sox and Cubs should own is way better than the Sox and Cubs right now. And it's going to be until they fucking take the criticism and do something about it. Because that's where it's won and lost. That's where games in baseball are won and lost more than any other sport, is knowing that fucking Corey Patterson isn't a center fielder, that fucking Andrew Vaughn isn't a right fielder. Knowing those things from when they're young up, building from the ground up. And the Cubs, I thought, did that well, but they haven't lately. And they really haven't. I thought when Theo was the president or vice president or whatever the hell he was, they did do that well for a little while. But then they got ahead of themselves, ahead of their skis themselves, and didn't scout their own talent.
They rested on their laurels.
Yes, exactly. I believe they did. And the Sox do the same fucking thing. Intellectual property. That's what I said about Jerry Reinsdorf. He doesn't want to pay money for it.
Yeah.
So all they can do is one side of the field. The Sox are great at pitching. The pitching side, the Sox are great at, but they can't get the fucking the players right, the batters right, for lack of a better term right now. But that's it. That's their problem, and both teams do it.
When do our owners in this city start treating us like we are a big market city? The White Sox are in a big market city. The Cubs are in a big market city. The Bulls, the Blackhawks, the Bears are in big market cities, but they're all treated like small market clubs. And you've got teams that are small market spending more money than you. The San Diego Padres, while we were on the air right now, just extended Manny Machado to 11-year, $350 million contract.
Jesus. And the Sox should have fucking got him.
He was one of the guys I was like, man, the third base is going to be a hole. Manny Machado's a free agent. Maybe they could trade for Manny Machado at the trade deadline because he was good. But the Padres went out and spent money. They spent money on him. They went out and got Xander Bogaerts. They've got Tatis Jr. And they've got Juan Soto. They've got like $2 billion in payroll right now over the next 15 years. And they're the San Diego Padres.
Yep.
The Padres. They got Tatis Jr. from the White Sox.
They don't even have a football team
They
anymore.
I don't understand why a team like this is able to spend more money than the Cubs or White Sox. Why a team like that, like the Texas Rangers even. The Texas Rangers have spent more money in the last 2 seasons than the Cubs or the White Sox. It is ridiculous.
The Texas Rangers are going to be good soon.
They
Really,
are.
really good soon.
They got $1 billion wrapped up in their freaking infield.
And Combs, it's not just the money on the field either. Like I said, intellectual property, these scouts, these guys who look into the numbers, there's not a lot of them. Yeah. And you have to pay for them. If you don't build out your organization from the bottom up, especially in baseball, you're fucked. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. And that's where a lot of games are won and lost. Now, especially in baseball, a statistic game, not just stats, but looking at a player and scouting a player. The Cubs and Sox have just not been good at that. Or have been good at that on one side of the ball. The Cubs were good at on the batting side, on the role player side, not on the pitching side. And that's been a problem for the Cubs. The White Sox are vice versa. The White Sox have one of the best scouting teams for pitching. They don't have it for the other side of the ball.
I know.
And that's where you pay. That's where you pay the money. And that doesn't come up on a salary cap or anything like that. That's where the Cubs and Sox are cheap. That's where the Bears have been cheap. I mean, come on. They didn't even have a scout for a GM for the Bears for like 10 fucking years.
Dude, I could go on about this for hours. We could sit here. We would have a great show if we went on this for hours. But I know you got some family stuff to do. I've got a casino to get to today. I'm gonna go lose all my money.
What's your game? What's your game?
Dude, I love poker. I'm a poker guy.
So do I.
So I'm gonna go sit at the poker room and check it out. Night. Dude, there's a couple. I've actually got a couple of friends who do a house game. So next time we have one, I'll definitely invite you down. And then we can go hit up the casino anytime you want.
Absolutely, we got one right here.
We're gonna go ahead and get out of here for this week. We've got a lot of stuff to get to next week. We've got the free agency, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk this week. Bears talk to get to. We got baseball started up again, so we got more Cubs and Sox stuff to get to next week. It's gonna be a great couple of. Actually, we're just great every week. Who cares? We're great every week. Till next time, Man Our Nation, rise up.